Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure when you're listening to this. This might be the cutout, or it might be in the middle of the version. Why I'm doing this, you might be say, "Hey, I was in the regular middle episode. Why introduction again?" Well, this is an added bonus, a little thing here because Trask told you recorded earlier on Sunday afternoon, scheduled to release Sunday morning, and lo and behold, hanging out, watching some Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one. And alas, I get the notifications. Actually, before I got notification, I think it was Chris Balga that actually messaged the group first and stuff like that. But Bob Chapek. So, okay. To lay it all out for everybody, Bob Chapek, the COO, when did he take over? I think it was like 2019, something like that. Bob Chapek took over. I think it was actually, no, maybe 2020, right? When did he officially? Yeah, 2020, because 2019 was like the kind of victory lap year before COVID and all that stuff, and they did the big handoff, right? Bob Chapek, who as of yesterday was the current CEO of Disney, is no longer the CEO of Disney. It has now come back to good old Uncle Bob, as we call him here on GeekVerse, Bob Iger. This is a fascinating story. So for me, what's crazy about, and I think this is all good things. We're going to talk about a little bit of like, could this be leading towards a Disney sale? What's going to happen with the Marvel and Star Wars of it all? I'm going to talk about how I think overall this is a good thing for even the parks, because I'm in Canada, so I haven't gone, God, 6 years, because that was our last trip. We decided, hey, are we gonna do a wedding or we gonna do a bunch of trips? And we did a bunch of trips. It was so fun. We were talking to a couple about that. He was planning a wedding, and we're like, yeah, we used it all for trips, and we're pretty happy with it. And it didn't look like they, it felt like they were offended as far as like, oh, well, you're supposed to pick a wedding. But I was like, no, we want to do all this stuff, and we don't regret it all, and we might be getting officially tying the knot here soon and stuff like that. Um, Anyways, rambling on. The parks and everything, I don't go there, but all I've heard from most people is, okay, yes, expensive, but I've also just heard, man, it is just terrible with the fast pass gone, with the reservations, stuff like that, which is kind of funny because he came from parks, and that's what happened, right? This guy came from more the parks and resort side and everything like that. But Iger, like I said, I'm going to talk about how it all translates to everything else, Marvel, Star Wars, the future. But the story, or like the chain of events, where a few years ago Iger was going to retire. It was supposed to be 20, I don't know, whenever before Disney Plus, a couple years before. But they kind of, the board and some people talked about, hey, like we're launching Disney Plus, doing these big things. We kind of need you around. So he didn't officially retire, but he was pretty much like 1 foot out the door, and they pulled him back in. So it's like, okay, that happened. All right. And then finally, 2019, the end of 2019, 2020, he retires and gives it over to, as some people say, Bad Bob Chapek and stuff like that. Gives it over to him. And then he's gone for now 2 years, and now he's back. It's just so fascinating to me that no matter what, because I thought that Bob Chapek days were kind of numbered. It just like there's like a lot of places too. Like I think it was Paramount's doing layoffs, Warner Brothers doing layoffs and stuff like that. Like even Disney right now. I think Thor, Doctor Strange. Okay, you got Top Gun, but I mean like the top five. It's a lot. Let me take a look at Box Office Mojo right now, and I'm just talking about from the movie's perspective. Let's see, biggest 2022 movies. But either way, while I'm searching that up, um, they're still doing well, right? They're still successful. But then I think it was something like they just lost like 4 billion or something like that last quarter or something. Like they were down, and their stock went down big time and stuff like that. Okay, so oh no, even look at that. So there you go. I'm actually wrong with the top five. So you got Top Gun, so this is just domestic. Top Gun, Doctor Strange, Jurassic World, The Minions, The Batman. Good for you, The Batman, being Thor: Love and Thunder, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther, man, even Spider-Man: No Way Home. But what was it for worldwide? Top Gun: Maverick, Jurassic World, Doctor Strange, Minions. So fucking Minions, man. Minions, the Batman, Thor: Love and Thunder. I didn't even know the Batman beat Thor: Love and Thunder. Good for them. I don't even know what Watergate Bridge is, one of those Japanese movies. But either way, so they're still a big brand. They're still successful, right? They're still doing like well, but not well enough for Disney standards, and well enough for, you look at last week. So all these things happened, And to me, this is a direct result where that happened. Then there was the investors call, the new plans and everything like that, right? Of layoffs, and there was all these talks or actually plans like cutting off funding for certain departments, and some of those departments were creative departments, which that's been a big thing apparently with Chapek, uh, that he was like adding a lot of middlemen into the process, and he was taking some of the creativity from people. There's been words about that with Feige and stuff like that, as far as they hadn't gone along the greatest, and that there's taken some things away. Even look at, it's been little stuff, but even look at during the tour of Multiverse of Madness, Feige's like, yeah, I didn't really want to show any of that stuff, but we make it work. Like, I feel like he's like gentlemanly and smartly like put out little things, but those have been the rumors that he had gotten in the way. Even Kroll's been tweeting out tonight, which we had heard before, is just as far as like even talent wise, he was always a bit more cold and a bit more hard to deal with. And that dated back to the very first instance of the ScarJo thing, right? That's when it really, like, I feel like, hey, the Parks thing's been building. I feel like almost every like quarter it's getting worse and worse as far as people that goes to parks, and I just hear about Disneyland, like how just shitty it can be. So there was that. There were some decisions along the way, as like I said, taking power from creatives and putting in people that were and of course, that's what you do, right? It's tough because all these people he was putting in these new positions. Apparently, what it was is kind of the similar way. Let's say there was a chain command of, A to B to C. Now, what was happening is they would take A, B, C, and what where C was, maybe they'd put C down and add another person at C, and now that C person used to be D. I'm hoping this makes sense, but they're just adding some individuals that were kind of the middlemen and kind of a telephone game. Now, I'm sure it doesn't work like that in business, but that's just how it's been described, right? And a lot of these people were people that were from his past, friendly, and like friendly, of course, but people that didn't have a entertainment background. And that's the tough thing, right? Because here's for, not to defend Shea, because I think he did make some bonehead moves. And back to ScarJo one, that was a bad thing. To let that go public, that would have never. So many insiders have said that, and I can agree, because you look at what happened with Iger, like how far he got it up to the business. I can't remember. I'll find the stat, but there was just like someone. I think it was something like their market value was like 40 billion, and then like when he left, it was like 270, 260 million, and now it's down to 170 million and stuff like that. Like, he had a huge run through everything, acquiring Marvel, Star Wars, Fox, and that was a big thing too. That was part of the rumors too of him staying on for Fox, or staying on with Disney. Like, we got to get through this merger, and that's pretty much happened. Right, he got through that merger, and then he left. It was like, we need your help, and that might need to go to the sale later on. We'll talk about, but of course, Disney does not have their without controversies, right? And there's some things where even then it was an Alan Horn decision, like letting James Gunn go, and now I think they kind of regret that in the long run, clearly. But th- not everyone's perfect, but that, even the James Gunn thing, that was somewhere down the line where it's like, I don't know if you need to fire him, but I could kind of see where we're going. Where the ScarJo thing was like, how did you let this get to so big? How do you let it get to almost going to court and stuff like that? And I don't think any of us all thought it was going to go to court, but just the idea that in the public it was like that, and it looked terrible in a time like coming off like the pandemic and into the next Marvel movie. So he made some mistakes. He made some big ones, but at the same time, to give the guy credit two ways, as far as just like, it is a shitty situation, and one, it's a little bit different, but it's almost like Disney kind of chose it. I don't know. One is he got put in the middle of the pandemic. To me, it's like, if you, in a football term, let's say the old coach retires, right? He's done, and you got this great team, and you got maybe one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks. You're like, we're gonna have a great season. Here we go. Season starts 2 weeks in the season, the 18th season week. Your quarterback goes down with injury and he's hurt. Now you still have lots of great players, lots of great factors, but this would be more like, okay, because you lost the parks, you lost the shows, you lost the cruises. This would be like, oh, your quarterback goes down. Oh, and your wide receiver. Oh, and your running back. So he got put in a terrible situation. There is a multiverse. There is a what if scenario that Bob Chapek is running a successful Disney right now, and nothing ever happened. Maybe there's some little lumps along the way, but even look at Black Widow. That situation would have never happened, right? The counterpoint is, okay, it did happen. How do you handle it? How do you lead? And it's not anything for me to say. I lead with the other guys a small business that's $1,000 corporation. I'm not making billions, sometimes, no, probably not near trillion, but, leaning that way decisions, right? But at the same time, to give the guy credit, it's like, same thing. Okay, you didn't make the best route, but that would have never happened. Black Widow just would have came out. She would have been paid what would have been regular paid, and so on and so forth. Now, in the pressure cooker situation, I think he failed, and he failed a couple more times there, and it just started to build up and everything like that. And the other thing is, he was a Parks and Resort guy, and I always agree with people of like it was a strange fit of Iger, who's a jack of all trades, but more than anything, new entertainment, which the parks are their. I guess maybe that's what motivated the choice, right? The parks was their biggest situation there as far as that makes them the most money. The movies, yeah, sure, that makes them money, but the parks are where it's at. But also it'd be different if I've heard like, oh, all this bad stuff about everything else, but the parks are going great. Even the parks we've heard people complaining and saying bad stuff about. So it's just like that's where all around you go, okay, if he was running that, I'd say, well, you guys chose him to you chose him and he's the parks guy. Maybe this other stuff he's learning, but he's doing great at the park stuff. And then the people he brought in, like I said, to be those middlemen were apparently lots of people from his camp and lots of those people that did not have entertainment backgrounds. That again is a double-edged sword because you go, well, every coach that comes in brings in their own roster. Every people that, when they start something, they want to bring people in that they know, stuff like that. Like we want to take not just someone random, someone you've had an experience with, like someone, shout out them if they're listening. But with like Marvel Alliance, when I left that show, I didn't want to leave. I had my schedule, but I knew I had to. I just couldn't bounce it. But I never was going to leave the show until I knew there was someone good, if not better, which I found to fill my shoes, and that was Brent. And, I'm friendly with Brent, like this beforehand and stuff like that. I trusted him. So, of course, you bring in someone. It wasn't just, I'm going to throw out there and see who's out there, and there you go, Chris. You go with the people you know. So I get you go with your people, but at the same point, I chose Brent because he was good for the situation. That's been a lot of the reports that a lot of these people were just not great for that situation, and it's good that you're friendly with them and you trust them, but you also, like, there's 3 boxes. It's like the way I talk about with wrestlers. You got to be great in the ring, you have got to be a great promo, like talk and everything like that, and you have a good character. Those are the 3 traits that get people out there, and hopefully no injuries and stuff like that. But that's what you need. And that's what you need too, where, okay, can you trust them? Okay, that was a check for him for some of these people. Are they friendly? Are they good? Okay, that's a check. That's kind of in the trust. But still, like, do you think you're going to get stabbed in the back? So maybe that's a twofer. But still, I still think the friend, because I like working with friends, so I get that aspect. And are they good at that position? I think it's over time showing maybe they're not good at the position. I think that was the problem as well, too, that a lot of these people he was putting in the entertainment slots were people from his park background, and then you're going to see a lot of these people go, like we just saw with Warner Brothers, and that's where it's tough because I get bringing in your crew, but you also got to bring in the people that know that stuff. Try and bring in your crew where you can, but then you should maybe lean more to the entertainment side and stuff like that. So it not a long run, 2 years, but again, a terrible situation to take over, and I think it is going to be good. It's the best case for all of us listening, and because I know our biggest fan base is this, it's the Marvel stuff, 100%, because Feige and Chapek, there's been rumors that they've not been getting along at all, and I've said this before where I don't know if he saw the writing on the wall, and I actually don't think his contract's up for a while, but I always said there's always a chance, and now we have Gunn and we have Safran over at DC, but I never laughed off the DC thing completely, because and apparently he even asked Zaslav, but if fucking Feige was just having a terrible time and hated life, we already heard before when he was dealing with an asshole. Now, I'm not saying Bob Chapek is the asshole that Perlmutter was, who was, you could read from everything, sound like he was racist, sound like he was sexist, or he had some tendencies the guy didn't know about. I'm not saying Chapek was that, okay? But in just the point of view from the story, his asshole, he almost left Marvel. And what did Iger do? At that point, he kind of had Perlmutter, and he had Feige, and Feige rose to the top, and he went, you know what, I'm going with Feige. And that's what happens in all walks of life as far as business. If there's a choice, eventually you have to decide, and the one that was more profitable, but also I think the smarter and safer choice was, hey, let's give Feige more power here. Where Chapek was like, and this is another thing too, where this guy I don't want to hear anything about, all these stars and a build up. He made this successful franchise, multiple billion-dollar movies, and the movie that finally took down Avatar. Yes, Avatar took its crown back, and yes, Avatar to me is a more impressive feat because that's just a film with a lot of not no names, but not well-known actors, and it's not IP. I think that is a bigger accomplishment than Endgame, which was the end of a 10-year journey that had a huge star A-lists and stuff like that. But still, it was an achievement nonetheless that Endgame had taken down Avatar. So coming off of that, you're going You're going to take power away from this guy. Now, again, he's a captain of a ship. Lots of people are on that ship with him. But it's still like, so I'm not saying, oh, it's just Feige, but still, of course, Bob Iger, and Alan Horn, of course, they helped Feige along the way as well. But Feige's a big proponent of that. And to me, there's no signs of like Marvel is your cash cow right now as far as just the movie stuff. Take the parks out of it because I think I've spoken on the parks and there's not much more I can say because I'm not the most well educated on that. So I think I've seen a couple like amusement park podcasts out there. Go listen to them. I don't have any to recommend you, but like they would know that side more. Just the entertainment wise, that's your bread and butter because Star Wars ain't putting out shit. The animated films have just crumbled. Like look at Lightyear, Strange Worlds next week, and I don't think that's has to do with the product. Look at fucking like Turning Red and all the stuff that was just released straight to Disney Plus and stuff like that. You know, like these movies where I agree with some people that some of the audience just got accustomed to, I'll just wait at home, or is it on Disney Plus? And if it's not, they just forget about it, right? Like that was definitely fumbled. I think 100% as far as the difference of premiere versus just straight. It's strange. It's really strange. So talking all that stuff, Marvel, that's your bread and butter right now. That's the movie. Those are the movies that if they're not a billion, they're near billion and stuff like that. And you take power away from that guy. Again, I don't know the situation. Maybe they sat down and Feige was like, "Fuck you." He just took off his Marvel hat, put a hat on, and said, "Fuck you." He's like, "This is you might be the CEO, but it's my town. I run the place." I don't know, but I'm going to take a guess. And I'm sure everybody at that level has to be a little cutthroat, right? Like Feige's level has to be a little cutthroat. But I'm going to guess it didn't go that route. I'm just going to guess that either Chapek thought that this was the right move to make it better, or maybe him and Feige just didn't gel. But that would be tough for me if I was hired to go on, even to a different podcast, right? Let's say you got Geeked Ultimate Alliance, right? Let's take it from the outside where I go in there and I'm an outsider and I see what the highest rated show is and I go, you know what, that's good, but I want to start limiting these guys. I want to start saying they can't do this, or I want them to have to do this. I would kind of just let it go, like let it let the machine work itself. And then the pandemic happened, so that, you know, but if there was a couple years where okay, Marvel's down, or there's some decisions where like or the movies are getting a lot of critically bombed, then you kind of say, hey Feige, like I appreciate what you've done, everything like that, but like some things got to change because people aren't digging this, and people can say whatever the fuck they want about Phase 4. It's successful. I don't care. I'm tired of this narrative, and maybe it's because I'm biased because I really like Phase 4, but I think it's just like with people, it's just the circle, the Twitter film bubble of like Phase 4 has been quite a disappointment. Now, absolutely, I know people that think that, and that's fine. That's all from a subjective, you know, a point of view. And these are people that I know that are like normal film goes like, it's just not doing for me. That's fine. But to say it's like a failure, to say it's like they're real big trouble, yeah, they're real big trouble. Fucking Doctor Strange is making near $1 billion. Big time trouble. Look out, everybody. So, the Marvel side, nothing but good stuff here right now for Feige and team, and I think this is very good for going forward. And for Star Wars too, so it's good depending what side you're on, and I don't think this is a bad thing. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy is like the old regime of Warner Bros. That's got to go. You know, I don't think that. I think Kathy has had some big wins, some small wins, some little ones, and it's tough, right? Because there's so many times where like the film side completely annoys me, and I think she's really bungled that. But then you got something like Andor on, where it's like this is a phenomenal show. So I think her record's very mixed. But either way, whatever you think, if you're the person that wants Kathy gone, and I don't necessarily want her gone, I just wish that the film side was a bit more. Um, we had some more commitment to it. That we had some just a more layout plan, and I don't need the Feige slate. Just can I get one of these films that have been actually announced and see it in front of my eyes, or stop announcing them? That's where those reports I agreed with Chapek. But if these reports were true, where Chapek was saying, "Hey, stop announcing Disney movies," and then all of a sudden 2 movies got like leaked out, that to me is okay. They're not announcing, but for sure to me, I thought that was a sign to Chapek as far as if that's true, where I say, "Hey, I'm Chapek," and I say, "I want you to stop announcing movies." And Kathy goes, "Oh, well, you know, it's Lucasfilm, my division, stuff like that. Like, you know, I'm want to get the hype, or I want to put this out in the press." But he goes, "Nope, stop announcing them." Now, I agree that he was right. These movies haven't happened. Stop announcing them. But let's say that's what he wanted. She goes, "Okay, fine. I won't announce them." This is then her going to her friends, the press, or some of her friends, like, hey, tell them about this Star Wars movie. Oh, do you really want us to? Yeah, yeah, go ahead. I can't, but you can. And that to me was exactly what that was. Kathy and Iger have a notoriously long term great relationship. I think this is just, if you don't want Kathy to stick around, I think Kathy's sticking around. I'm not, I think Star Wars, it's tough. It really is, because there's days where I feel like it needs a change, and I would like the change to happen, especially with the film side, because I want more Star Wars on film. I don't need even one a year, but just like some of these ideas, and some more risky stuff, like with Andor, that is risky. So that's where I get it. I'll give it to them and stuff like that. But I just even mean more some of the older era stuff, some kind of out there things, these ideas like, well, we don't want to adapt the books. It's like, what? Like, there's some very just straight, narrow thinking sometimes that I think, oh, if Star Wars kind of had some a couple zigs, couple zags, that'd be great. But at the same time, she's done some great things. And I'm a little disappointed with it, but people fucking love. Okay, I'm not disappointed with Mando. I'm disappointed with the Mando Boba Fett storyline. But people love Mando, right? So it's like, I think Kathy's gonna be sticking around. I think that, and even if she doesn't put out film, if Iger's around for a little bit, that's gonna happen. And to transition into my last point here, I'll take a break and then I'll transition into it. And we're back. So to transition to my last point here, where it is interesting. Chapek, this thing's happen. The big drop, the quarterly earnings call. He gives his plan for what they're gonna do. That includes layoffs, a whole bunch of stuff that we've read about, and then less than a week later, he's gone. Um, the last thing is the sale, right? People have talked about a lot that Disney could be bought by Apple, etc. I don't know how I feel about that. Apple, of course, is a massive, huge company, and they could do it. They could easily do it. I just don't know. I think that has a lot of potential cons to it. But we'll see. Apple also has done some great things on Apple TV as well for the media side. I just mean more the way they sometimes control product, and it's just, I don't know. But I also see lots of positives with Apple. But that's where I think it is possible. But also, I think this does. Sure, Iger could run it for a little bit longer, or let's say he could run it for 4 6 years. I do lean more, and if you had a gun to my head, does this mean a sale could happen? Yeah, because Iger tried to retire once, didn't get to happen. He retired the second time, and now he's brought back out. I don't see this being a super long term thing. Long term meaning, like I said, near decade plus. Like it might be 2 to 4 years. That's trying just to put a semblance of what I mean for long term. Long term, a next decade, die in the chair sort of state. No, I think he could be in there to one, get the ship kind of back on good, waters. I don't know what the fuck that expression is, but just like, turn the tide a little. And then also, I think if there is the same way they wanted him around for Fox, like, hey, let us get Fox, the acquisition, then you can go. This could be the reverse of, hey, we're dealing with Apple, we're dealing with this person, get us to this point, get us to be bought by them, best money, situation, the company looking good again, and then you're on your way. I can see that being a very big scenario right now, that he is there to help with the transition. Even the article said something about, like, oh man, what was it? I'll have to find the exact quote there, but it said something where, and Iger put out a statement already just saying, oh, it's so crazy, I'm back in it, which is just kind of funny and everything. But what was the statement that was said in the article? Let's see. An increasingly complex period of industry transformation. I think that you read between the lines. That is, of course, that means lots of things, but a sale could be imminent. But again, imminent is not like, in a year. I'm talking a ballpark of 4 to 5 years and stuff like that. And I could see that if there are even talks or any ideas of that, might take a couple years, the deal to finalize. And that brings us to 3 to 4 years. And Iger, hopefully for the third time Trump, gets to retire and go. But also there's a chance, I could say, let's say that's not the plan, and they just want to run Disney. There's a chance we hear this all the time from people, athletes, stuff like that retire and they're gone for a little bit and they regret it. And whether it's just they miss the thrill of the job, whether they don't like home life, that's a bunch of people. How many people have we heard? And that's not, maybe that'll be me one day, but I think that's even like my mom. My mom even says, like, she just loves to work. She'd always like to work and be busy and doing stuff. I'm somebody that could be retired and sit at home and never miss any job. Now it's different because I'm not doing, like, I like my job. This has probably been my favorite job that I've had over the years because it's, one, doesn't kill my body, and two, I'm making good money and stuff like that. I'm talking not the not this job, the podcast or the I didn't want to say where at my government job, but and I could see this too with this where even times when we take vacations and let's say, oh, okay, I'll be off for a week, is that you miss it. You miss the like talking with listeners. You miss talking with Dylan, Jessica, Taylor, Kirklin, like even GVP. Like there is times where it's like, oh, you just want to, and that's why I started this, right? And this is just like a little minute thing. I don't know if I would be, it'd be different if someone came to me and say, hey, you're gonna have millions of dollars. Could you never podcast again? Depends the life situation, but there would always be like, man, I'd really like to get back in the thick of things. And with this, especially, that guy lives such a different life just to be at home, maybe it's not a thing. So there's a chance that he went there, had a little break, went, you know what? I'd rather be doing that. I'm happy doing that. I can balance both things. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. So it's a crazy time. He says we're gonna be hearing more tomorrow. At the time this recording, that'd be the Monday, the 21st. So, and I think I don't know if they have an Investors Day or something like that in December. I know they did a few years ago when they did that big rollout. I don't think they'll be doing a big rollout again, but that's going to be very interesting. And yeah, that's a tide turner. It's a very strange time. Was not expecting this. Was expecting Chapek to be out at some point, but not so much Bob Iger, Uncle Bob, to be back in. And he is, and we'll have to see what changes. I think from us, Sale withstanding, um, lots of positives. I think nothing but positives for the content. And at the end of the day, it's like, why do you care? Why are you so just positive about billionaires making more money? It's more just like the impact of what we talk about and the quality of it, and we're going like these ideas of like, hey, these Marvel Animation Studio potentially being laid off and shut down because they cost too much of this, that. There's a chance that maybe they find a way to make that work, and that doesn't happen, right? I just think from the time that Iger was running things, it was pretty smooth, and we got to the peak of the geekdom as far as the Marvel and Disney side of stuff. So yeah, that's a little add-on here, and then you'll get to hear the rest of the show unless you're listening to cut out. Thanks for listening.